Hello, everyone. My name is John, and I was born in a military hospital in Tidworth. My father was a naval officer, lieutenant, and in Dartmouth Naval College they give you rum, so he was an alcoholic, or was later to be. I'll get onto that. But it was a strange start in life because three strange things happened to me. When I was born, I had a hypertropic squint, which is a very rare thing where your eyes kind of have to be lowered through surgery. So mine were lowered. I went back to one of the best hospitals in the country, eye hospitals, three times to have them lowered when I was about 4 or 5. So I spent a lot of time in hospital as a kid in weird cots and things like that. Very scary. And then I also had a hypertropic squint, which is a weird. Sorry, I've said that. I also had a simian line on the palm of my hand, which is in Down syndrome children. There are 75% of Down children have simian lines apparently, but that's the Western philosophy. In the Eastern philosophy, it's on the palm of the Buddha, so you make your own mind up about that. Also, I had hyperlexia, which is the ability at the age of 4 to read what an 8-year-old could read. So I had these gifts, these extraordinary gifts. I was highly imaginative, and I used to forge £10 notes. I remember copying £10 notes and things like that as a kid. Very strange, and doing impressions of people. Anyway, I used to rush back to home, to see our black and white telly, and later we got colour, which was a revolution. And then I was at the local comprehensive school, and there was a lot of stuff going on there. And I was very popular. Everything was wonderful, but it was all in colour. I remember it all in vivid colour. And I used to kick a football around with my best friend, who was an Arsenal supporter. I'm a Tottenham supporter. I was an Arsenal supporter. I kick a ball around with him, and I had a lot of mates. I was very popular. I think I was a bit of a leader in some ways when I was there. And then suddenly, my father decided to move to the Middle East, to Qatar, because it was a tax-free state. Therefore, he could achieve his wonderful dream of sending his children to a boarding school. And I was shoved off to this appalling school, one of the worst in the country, owned by the headmaster. So it was essentially a Nazi dictatorship, really. You weren't even allowed out of the school. The only way you had communication was via a letter, and that was it, and that would be censored. So there were no telephones. There was no other way of talking to anybody. If you got caught downtown, you were basically taken to his study, and God knows what happened there. Or he would parade up and down the dormitory, reeking of cigarettes, panatellas, and whiskey. And if anyone was talking after lights out, then you were taken down to his study, and you don't want to know what went on there. Things happened to me when I was there by a prefect. I won't go too much into that. It was abuse, but there you go. It wasn't fun, and lots of things. In fact, it's very weird because it all went into black and white. So I blanked so much of it out. But I was traumatized by the time I went to my next school. In fact, I was recommended to see a psychiatrist by the headmaster of the school. I was sent a letter to my parents, and I steamed it open and found they wanted me to see a psychiatrist because I didn't fit into the ethos of the school. Well, not surprisingly, I was traumatized. So the next school was utterly brutal. I remember we used to be woken up at 4 o'clock, and then we'd have to go for a 4-mile run, and then the colour sergeant was always not a particularly nice piece of work, would take us down to this lake where we had to find a piece of weed. He'd row out in a canoe, and then we'd have to swim out and find it. I know any of us got pneumonia, I don't know. Then after that we go back to this kind of disused sort of squash court where we do press ups, and then I remember I didn't do one properly, and then he got a hobnail boot and he stuck it on my head and pushed my chin into the floor, which was really painful. And after that we'd have cold showers. Now sometimes they'd take the nozzles off the shower, and I think something very unfortunate happened to somebody as a result of this. And this is what the trouble when you're leaving people who are about 16 years old in charge of you, who think they own the world. And this was every Saturday this went on, and that's probably the worst one I can remember. But the brutality was horrendous. In my first school and my second school, I was hung, or I wasn't hung, but I was almost hung. It was terrifying, And they in the second school they threw. It's strange enough, I became a performer, but they threw a noose around the theatre rigging and put a light up there, and it was actually the priest's son who gave me my last rites, and they sort of held me at the end of the stage, then pushed me off the stage, and then pulled me back on, tried to make me pee myself, all these horrendous things. Then they whipped me with brambles. I mean, there were so many things that went on there that were just unholy and appalling that I can't, go there. So anyway, as we move on, I left school. My father was an alcoholic, so he used to literally pick me up by the scruff of the neck, throw me against the wall sometimes, say things like, "You don't deserve me to be my son." He'd say, "You're a C. What are you?" "I'm a C. I think you know what C is." And yeah, things like that. Although I do know he did love me, but he was alcoholic, and I know what alcohol does. So yes, I forgive him, but that wasn't easy. I did 6 jobs when I was there. He was always telling me to get out of my pit and get myself to do jobs. He gave me none of the rest of my family ever had any of this. I was the eldest, you see, so I would do these jobs, and it was really difficult. I did 6 jobs. I got sacked from every single one. I think I played the Sex Pistols in a supermarket, and I was sick of playing James Last. So anyway, I got sacked accidentally for shoplifting. I didn't mean to. I took my own tapes with their tapes, and I almost had my hands chopped off. And there's so many stories I could tell you about how I got very rebellious as a result of the abuse that happened to me. And we had a red bag, and we used to go around this shop, and there was a juice store next door, and we used to take everything off the shelves, put it in a red bag, and run it into an old Chevy in the desert. We didn't really want the stuff. We were just doing it for dares. We didn't realize the penalty. We were kids. Who knew? But anyway, so I left that. I did some hopeless stuff. I did a business studies course, which is absolutely useless. I wrote a sketch show at the end of it, which was good. And it was only through sitting there watching 2 people talking about how they were going to the Paris Academy of Mime that I decided to go and look for acting. I tried to get into Manchester Poly because Rick Mail went there. I didn't get in, got down to the last 2. I got into a really terrible drama school in London, but I was doing too much drugs. I was doing booze. I was doing everything in those days, just trying to escape from myself. I dressed up as a Roman centurion, did a 45-minute stand-up act. I did some crazy stuff because I was just escaping the trauma of being me. And I spent many, many years as an entertainer, and I'm still an entertainer to this day. But it's been a struggle, and I came out of that. It all happened in New York, when I got very, very paranoid, and I was sweating on stage and forgetting my lines, and I realized I've got to do something about this. So what happened was I went to a Vipassana meditation place. I did Vipassana meditation, and that was really, really good, and that really, really helped me. I stopped drinking on that day, and that was the 14th. That was 2014, January the 24th, 2014. I gave up drinking for good, forever. And also gave up booze. I gave up drugs and cigarettes and everything. And so that was my breakthrough. And it's been a very difficult time. I moved house, which wasn't the right move. I'm now in a different place. I'm not sure whether I like it very much, but what I've learned through all this is that I've found a kind of spiritual path. I'm a Buddhist. I chant every day. I've been in therapy. I did have EMDR, but now I've been told that I had a lot of anger issues, and that didn't work. So I have learned about the window of tolerance, which is extremely exciting. And it's a very clever way that we all have a window of tolerance. People do, but if you have trauma, it's very small. So you have to widen it through exercise and things like that. But there are 2 different things that happen. If you get out of your window tolerance, you go into hyper, which is where you get very angry about a situation and go crazy, or you go hypo, which is where you freeze and you don't want to do anything. So being in your window tolerance is the absolute ideal thing to do. Anyway, that's me. I hope I've given you a very potted history of myself. I hope it's helpful. Thank you very much for listening to me, and have wonderful lives. Thank you. Bye bye.